Hi, everybody. It's 6 o'clock on Sunday evening. What a beautiful day it's been today. Doesn't it feel great to have it over 60 degrees or over 40 degrees for that fact? How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, hi, Jan. Hi, Cindy. Make sure you say something. Can everybody hear me okay? Marilyn's here. Hi, Marilyn. Deb. Hello, girls. Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Is everybody hearing me okay? Hopefully the microphone's working. It seems to be working okay. Got a bunch of people coming in. Oops, second, I got to scroll. Just a minute. Oh, hi, Jackie. Sharon says hi. Hi, Deb. Here's Donna. Hi, Donna. Hi, Denise. Yep, you're hearing me okay? Good. Hopefully I don't keel over from the heat. My sewing room is a little warm tonight. I'm at the point that I'm going to have to go get the air conditioner out. Good sound? Good. Sound is good on your end? Good, Cindy. Thank you. That's good. How is everybody tonight? Hasn't it been such a nice day? It was kind of fun to get to see the sun. It was sort of rainy this morning. Has everybody been doing something fun today? In the sunshine? We still got people coming in. Oh, second, I got to scroll again. Oh, here's Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Oh, just a second, I got to go wiggle my iron. It's going to turn off on me. I need the iron in a little bit. Otherwise, it turns off. Hi, Donna. Oh, here's Lisa. Hi, Lisa. How was your sewing retreat? Crocheting? Oh, and your taxes. I can't say that was very much fun. The crocheting sounds fun. I already got my taxes done. I'm glad. We sewed today. A bunch of us got together and are working on the Kimberbell quilt called Hello Sunshine. I don't know if you've ever seen that one or not. Let me go get the book just a second. I'll show it to you. It's very cute. This is what we were working on today, this quilt. It's an embroidered quilt by Kimberbell, and it has lots and lots of cute little designs in it. So this is what we were working on today. I've got about, I don't know, 15 blocks done or something like that, 12 or 15 blocks. Working on your blocks. Sharon was working on her blocks. What a good student, Sharon. You can't hear me, Marilyn? Make sure you turn up your sound. Went to Wallace's and bought lawn care products. Yay! About that time, isn't it, Denise, to get out on the lawn again. And Judy. Oh, hi, Judy. Judy made it. Linda's here. Hi, Linda. But yeah, so we were working on Hello Sunshine. It was really fun. We made last fall we made Jingle All the Way. It was the Christmas quilt, and that one was really fun too. Just a second here. Somebody's texting me on the other line here. So I can hear what it says. Okay. Oh, okay. So I want to make sure I have Messenger on my phone so then I can answer questions if I have to. So Lisa, I got 4 blocks done, but still have 5 to go. Yeah, it does take a little while, doesn't it, to get the blocks done. They take a, I mean, so does paper piecing. Oh, hi, Amanda. You know, when you do regular traditional paper piecing, it's kind of tedious. Denise Walker's doing a traditional paper piece one, she said, and you probably saw the pictures she put up. And it does take some time. I mean, and so this is sort of tedious too, but it sure does come out in the end, doesn't it? It's so cool. I've been working on, remember I said something last time about the little hot pads that I thought maybe that'd be a fun dream club. A lot of you come to dream club. Well, this is, I'll give you a sneak peek of the hot pad. And I did it in the design center in the Dream Machine. And so here's a sneak peek of the little hot pad. I made a Mickey hot pad, but I wanted to make it all covered on the edges, so I covered it with a satin stitch, and then here's the ironing surface on the other side. So I've got it just about done. I'm not quite done with it yet. So, but I put Mickey on it on the side. Is that cute? I thought it turned out cute. I was happy with it. I like the red polka dots. So this is what we're going to do in Dream Club. You have 30 of your paper. Oh, you've got 30 of those blocks done. Those take a long time, don't they, Denise? I've been working on some. I've got one that I'm working on. It's a Judy Niemeyer, and I'd like to finish that one up too. It's called Crackers. I'm not quite done. I think I got about 10 blocks left to do. Takes a little bit, but she's got 30 blocks. That's a lot, Denise. Do you like it, Kathy? Isn't it cute? I thought it turned out cute. I was happy with it. This is my second draft. I did a different one, and I like this one better, so I think we'll do this one. For some people won't be able to put the Mickey in there because they don't have Mickey in the Destinies, but you can put any design you want on it. I just put Mickey Mouse because I like Mickey. So, but this is what we're going to do in Dream Club in May. So let's see what else. Oh, really cute. I like that better than the pattern you showed us before. I actually do like the other pattern, but I like the idea of it being covered on the edge because I just didn't like the raw edges. So that's why I thought, well, we can do that. We can do this in software too. Oh, hi, Clara. I saw you come in too. Hi, Clara. Yeah, this is the larger one. They had two sizes on the little Hot Mama hot pad. There was two sizes. This one is this one's the larger of the two, and I thought, well, let's just do one size because the bigger one is the one. It can be done for smaller hoops too. So, yep, Jackie, we can get you one too. I can give you the design. You can't do it in your machine, but you'll be able to make it, like sew it out. I'll give you the design so you can do it. Oh, hi, Tammy. So we're getting a bunch of people here. So I think people are finding us. Cool. So that's what we're going to do in Dream Club in May. So, but what we're going to do tonight is put together our pineapple C's. How are people doing on the blocks? Are people getting some of their blocks done? It does take a while. I've got all of my blocks done, so I can put mine together tonight. And there's, what is there, 13 or 14 blocks? 13 blocks in it. And they do take a little while. When I started making the directions for this years ago, I had never really done much quilting. So this was the very first quilt pattern I ever drafted. And I had not put many things together like on point. See, this is what they call on point. So we're gonna put the rows together like this from the corner down like this. And I had never really done this before, so I had a lot of learning curve when I was doing this pattern, learning how to do all these triangles and get them all lined up and everything correctly. Oh, hi, Shelley. So anyway, this is gonna be put together from the corner to the corner, and you put it together in rows just like you would. So after I got it turned sideways so I could see what I was doing, then I realized, oh, well, I have to do this row, and then I have to do this row, and so on. But of course, on the ends, there's some triangles. So that, I had to kind of pay attention to the triangles and everything. So 7 blocks. Oh, Sharon's got 7 blocks done. That's great. Oh, here's Sharon Helmerson. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Shelley. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to start showing you how to put this together, and hopefully we'll get the borders on. I sewed some of my blocks together and some of my rows together already, so it wouldn't take so long. So I'm going to show you just a couple of rows and how the triangles go on, And then I'll try to get the borders on tonight too, so you can see all the whole thing put together. So, okay. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start up here. Well, the first thing we had to do, of course, is cut the triangles. And I gave you the measurements for the triangles and the borders. The triangles are, you cut 2 squares. For the smaller ones, you cut 2 squares that are 3 3/4 inches square, and then you cut them in half diagonally to make the triangles. So that's what these smaller ones were, like this. So I cut them in half, 2 of them in half, and made 4 triangles for the corners. So the smaller ones are the ones that go up on these corners up here. Okay, and then the other ones needed to be 6 3/4 inches square, and you cut those diagonally twice. So you're going to cut them both directions, and then you're going to have 4 triangles that are going to be just a little bit bigger. And those are the ones, or I'm sorry, 8 triangles, sorry, 8 triangles that are going to go along the outside edge right here. So these are a little bit larger, okay? So you have to get those cut first. And then what I do to help me, I have problems getting the triangles oriented correctly. I like to lay them out on the table, and that's why I put a picture of the design out here for you. I like to lay the piece of paper, you know, diagonally like this, so I can see what the triangles are supposed to look like for each row, and then it helps me orient those triangles. Like I said, I did have quite a time doing that when I first started doing this. So I have them all laid out on the table over here. And I'm going to look at my quilt and my picture to make sure that I have them oriented correctly. I did sew together the last 3 rows, last 3 rows on the bottom. So we're going to do the top 2 rows so you can see how the triangles go together, and like the top triangle, the little pointed one, the little short one. And then we will do I'll sew the rest of it together and put the borders on. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me get the camera turned here, and I'm going to lay my quilt up here so I can see my triangles. Did anybody have any questions about the blocks? Are you doing okay with them? Are they going all right? And your borders are 2.5 inches, isn't it? Yeah, 2.5 inches for the borders. There were 2 strips, the width of the fabric, that were for the borders. And I'm going to do purple on mine. My corner triangles were a different color because I didn't have enough fabric. And so I just had some kind of gray. This was leftover fabric from my UNI quilt. So I'm going to call this Pineapple Panthers because it's a UNI Panther quilt, but it's pineapple. So it's going to be Pineapple Panthers. Okay, so we're gonna have purple borders on mine. So, okay, so let me get my camera turned around here so you can see what I'm doing. Now you can probably see my parts laying over here on the table, and I've got my blocks laid out. Now what you want to do is the first instruction here says arrange the blocks in diagonal rows, alternating. I said green and blue blocks. What it should mean is A and B fabric blocks, because remember you had 9 blocks that were in the A fabric and 4 blocks that were in the B fabric in the center. So what I mean, this was my A fabric, was the ones with the purple, and my B fabric was the ones with the yellow in the center. So the 4 that were the B, because there was only 4 of those, are going to be kind of in the center of the quilt. So like there's 1 here, there'll be like 1 over here, 1 here, and 1 here. And you want to stagger them so that when you go to put these together, you got purple and gold touching instead of all purple and all gold. So there's only 4 of those blocks, but you just alternate them. So the first row is going to have a block that has the A fabric in the center. And there's just 1 block. So if we're going to go back to the picture here, bring it up. There's just 1 block in the first row up here in the corner. I got to get it on the camera, right? And then there's 2 triangles and then there's a triangle on the top. So we're going to do this one first, and you can see how the triangles are oriented. The bottom of the block and the one side of the triangles are even. So let's bring this up here so you can see it. Hopefully you'll be able to see my block. So here's my block, and here's my triangle. Oops, probably can't see it very well. There we go. So I want the bottoms to be even, like this, when I sew these together, okay? And then I've got my other one up here, so we're going to bring this up. So the two of them are going to be like that. So the bottoms are going to be flush, but then there'll be a little dog ear that's going to stick out on the top up here, and we're going to trim those off in a second. So I'm going to flip these around so I can lay them on my machine. You can't see them right at the moment. Get the camera aimed a little bit better for you. There we go. So you can see what I'm going to sew. And I also use, when I'm sewing a 1/4 inch piecing, I like to use a piecing. There's several different ways, of course, to do this. You can use a piecing foot. And I don't have my piecing foot out here. Oh, here's one of my piecing feet. Okay. I can put this on the machine, and I'm going to run the fabric right along this little indent right here. And the needle will be in the center position because it has this little teeny hole in it. I use this part of the time, but my favorite way to piece now is actually with the piecing stitch. And if I pull the camera back a little bit, you'll be able to see on my screen here. I am in the Q tab on the machines. Most of you have Brother machines. And I like the piecing stitch. The piecing stitch that I use is Q02, and it's the same on all of the machines, no matter which one you have. It's Q02. So what happens is that the needle moves over towards the right-hand side of the J foot, which is the standard sewing foot. And I don't use a piecing foot then, I just use this. So I'm going to run my fabric right along the edge of my J foot, and I'm going to use a stitch. The only other alteration I made here is, if you look here, the length says 2.5. The default setting for this is usually 2. I make a lot of mistakes when I'm piecing, so I don't want to have to rip out a 2.0 millimeter length. So it's very short. So I do have mine set at 2.5, and I can actually save that. So what I did, let me turn my camera just a little. I set this to 2.5, and then I hit this little memory button over here. It says memory, and most of the machines have one that says memory. Sometimes it's a little pocket, depends on which machine you have. And then I saved it in the machine. So every time it comes up, it will come up at that setting, so I don't have to change it every time. So I like that because I use that setting all the time. All right, so I'm using the Q02 piecing stitch, and you can use your piecing foot if that's what you like to use. And then I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam. I've trimmed my blocks so that they all have a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the outside edge. Okay, so let's bring up the camera again. Put it down towards the sewing machine. Oops. Sometimes I wish I had a cameraman. How's that? There we go. I think you can see what I'm doing, can't you? Okay, so we're going to take the triangle, because this is the first row. So this is the row we're doing, right? Let's get up here. So this one right here, we're going to do this row. So we need a triangle, and then a block, and then a triangle. So here's the orientation I want my triangle. I'm going to flip my block over like this, right sides together. Whoops, get it lined up. I'm not a pinner when I piece much, but I do pin my intersections when I go to put the rows together, because I can never get them to line up if I don't. I'm going to put my foot down, and I'm going to put the, remember I have my 1/4 inch piecing stitch selected, so I'm going to put the edge of the fabric along the edge of the foot right here. And this needs to be a full 1/4 inch. It's not a scant, it's more of a full. So I am watching also, remember those little lines that went around the outside edge of the block when you were embroidering them? I want to make sure that I'm stitching just about on or just inside of that line so that I don't have any thread showing. Okay? Hi, Marcia. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to drop my needle into my fabric. I like to drop my needle because then it doesn't come unthreaded. A lot of people just step on the gas and start, and then their machine comes unthreaded. So if you drop your needle down with your button up here, then it starts in the fabric, and that seems to work better for me. Okay, so we're going to sew this seam. Okay, so there's the first one. I'm going to cut it off. Okay, so then I have the first block and the first triangle, and then I'm going to flip this one. Now I need these to be this orientation. Again, the bottoms, the top part of the quilt, the bottom of the triangle is going to be flush with the block. So I need to get this one oriented like this and flip this one over right sides together. And then we'll sew this one. Can you see okay? I think you can. If I get a little closer, will that help? This new little thing that I got for sewing really helps. This little camera thing, camera mount. Oh my gosh, it's so nice. So much easier for me to sew because I don't have anything sitting between my legs. I always had that tripod, and I couldn't get close enough to the machine. So then there's our triangle. So we got the triangle, the block, and the triangle, and they're oriented correctly. And then the next instruction on the instruction says, matching and pinning intersections, sew the blocks and triangles together in rows. Press the seams in alternating directions. So when I see that in a quilt pattern, I kind of have something that I do, and whatever works for you, but I do the odd numbered rows, I press the seams to the left, and the even number rows, I press them to the right, and then I always know which way they go. So this is row number 1, so I'm going to press these quickly to the left. I want to press my seams to the left. So give me a second, I'm going to iron real quick. Hopefully my iron is awake here. This iron goes to sleep really fast. Okay, so I have ironed my seams. I don't iron these open, I iron them to the left. So they are open, they're ironed to the left. Can you see? I have them both ironed the same direction. The one isn't ironed too well, I'll iron it again in a little bit. Okay, I think I've got another comment. Oh, Mary's here. Hi, Mary. Okay, so we got them ironed to the left because this was row number 1. Then I want to go ahead and put the little triangle on the top so I don't forget to do it. But I've got these little dog ears up here. And there's a couple ways to do this. I've always just used my scissors and snipped them off. If you want to take your rotary cutter, you can do that too, but I've always found that my scissors worked great and it was very fast. And I didn't have to get up and run to the cutting table again. So now, when I go to do this, we want to make sure that this triangle is equally centered on the block. So how I do that is, excuse me, I'm going to have to scoot over and open the drawer to get the pins here. I take my block and I fold it in half, matching the seams. So I know exactly where the center of that block is. And I'm going to put a pin there. So I know where the center of my block is. And then I'm going to open it up. And then I'm going to fold my triangle in half. And I'm going to finger press it right in the center there. And then I'm going to lay that down on the pin. And I will pin this one because I want to make sure it doesn't move on me. Okay, so there's my, whoops. I think my iron's a little hotter now, so I'm going to go press that one little seam again. Hopefully it'll stay down this time. Okay. So I've got my triangle on there, and I'm going to flip it over to the top here, and oops, second here, I'm going to lose my thread. I am using cotton, the Pima cotton thread that I used to do the piecing with. I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch, drop my needle, and sew a 1/4 inch seam along the top. There we go. Cut that off, and then this is the top little triangle. And then I'm going to fold this up like that. So we'll give that a press. I'm kind of a self-taught quilter, so I've learned a lot of things from books and watching videos, but this is the way that putting the triangles on worked for me. And I don't know if it's the way that all the quilters are taught, but that's the way it works for me. I'm going to go ahead and trim these little dog ears off, get them out of our way, like that. So when we go to put our borders on, so there's the top of that's the first row of the quilt with the little corner. So we have the corner and the top row of the quilt. Okay? So has anybody got any questions so far? You following me okay? This was kind of a fun, I hadn't put this together for a long time, and it's kind of fun to put together. I like to sew things on point. I think it's kind of neat to put the triangles in and stuff. So, okay, so there's our first row. So I'm going to lay this back over here. And remember, I ironed my seams to the left because that was row number 1. So now we're getting ready for row number 2. Row number 2, let's look at our picture here. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Row number 2 has a triangle, and then it has an A block, the B block in the center, an A block, and then another triangle. So the 4 B blocks are right here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're right in the center here. Okay, so we're going to put the triangle, an A block, a B block, an A block, and then another triangle. So here's my blocks. See if we can kind of see them here. Here's the 3 blocks. And then I've got my triangle over here. You can probably see the tip of it there. So I'm going to slide these over a little bit so I have them in order. Again, I'm going to orient my blocks because this is the top of the quilt. I'm going to orient my triangle right here so that, oops, got to get down a little lower, so that the bottom of the block and the bottom of the triangle are equal. Okay? So I'm going to flip this over. Right sides together. Hopefully I can get it lined up for you. Okay. Then we're going to line up the right-hand side with our quilting or piecing stitch. Drop the needle. And so to the other end. Get just a little closer so you can see a little bit better. Okay. So then here's our first block and the triangle. We're going to go ahead and put the second block on. So this was the A block, and then this is the B block. Get this lined up. And like I said, I don't pin too much when I'm piecing. Some of the stuff I do, and I do when I put rows together so that my intersections are good. I have a hard time if I don't pin, so. Get it lined up. I think I kind of lost a little bit there. There we go. Okay. Got an A. Whoop, I got a couple little threads sticking out. Let's take those off. Okay, so we got an A block, a B block. We're going to go back to A again. Line these up. I didn't have a whole lot of fabric when I started this, so I didn't figure I'd have enough to do the whole thing, but I was actually pretty good. I had more than I thought. Oh, hi, Lois. And Lynn. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Jan, riding in the car. We'll watch you. Oh, she's riding in the car waiting, and she'll watch when she gets home. All right. So we're going to have the third block on here. So there's the other A block. And now we're ready for a triangle again. So I got to make sure I got it on here correctly. I want to make sure the bottoms are even. And then I'm going to flip it. This is the right side, I think. Yep, it is. And then I'm going to flip it right sides together. What gets me is when I go to do the second half of the quilt, I have to get the triangles are going the other direction. So I have trouble with that. Okay. Put this down. Drop my needle. And if you don't drop your needle when you start sewing, my grandma taught me that. My grandmother was a cool lady. I've told you lots of stories about my grandma. My grandma only used a treadle sewing machine her whole life. She sewed till she was 90. And but if you did not drop the needle down on that treadle sewing machine, it would unthread the needle every time. So and it really helps with a standard machine too, because you don't unthread your needle. And you also don't get the eating problems. You know, I had somebody call me the other day that all the fabric was going down into the needle plate, you know, because it's a zigzag plate and it's wide. And she was having trouble with her fabric going down, but she wasn't dropping her needle, and she was having trouble with it going down into the machine. So after she started dropping her needle and starting right in the fabric, it worked really much better. So, okay, so we got our triangle and our 3 blocks, and then here's the other triangle. So now I'm going to, since this was row number 2, remember we did the odd numbers to the left, and I'm going to I'm going to iron, excuse me, the seam allowances to the right on number 2. So give me a second here and I'll iron them. I should say press. That's what they say we should call it, is pressing, not ironing. My iron's got better steam now, it's warmer. I do use steam, but I do press. I don't iron really, because then if you iron, then you can stretch your fabric. So I use steam because otherwise things just don't lay flat. My favorite iron is still to use, I use different irons. I like this iron, my Chi iron, when I'm piecing, but I also like my that fancy steam iron, that Euro steam iron, because that works really well too. Okay, so I've got these pressed to the right, since this was row 2, okay? And I want to get rid of my little dog ears up here again, so we'll snip those off with the scissors so that we can put the rows together. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put the first row onto the second row, and then I've got the other 3 rows already done, and I'll show you how I oriented the triangles. So let's go ahead and put these together so you know how this works. So remember, we have our seams going in opposite directions, so then they'll nest nicely at these intersections, and then your intersections are going to be beautiful and perfect. So here's my first row. I'm going to put them right sides together, because they're going to go like this. And since these were going to the left and these to the right, they're going in opposite directions. So when I nest these, I like to pull them together, and I can feel them in against my thumb and my finger that they're really flat. And this is where I use pins. I just have never been good about getting these to stay unless I pin them. So I put a pin on both sides of the seam. I'm going to do the same thing here. I put a pin on both sides of the seam. And I use a very, very thin, light pin. These are extra fine pins, and they're glass head. And that's the only pins I ever use. I don't use those great big ones, because yes, I do drive over the pins. These are very, very thin. Yes, occasionally I'll hit one, but if you don't go over them 10,000 miles an hour, you'll be fine. And I do leave them in because I have never yet gotten a good seam if I didn't leave those pins in, because it always shifts on me. So I'm going to go over them slowly. I only use those tiny, tiny little pins because they're so thin. It's very rare that I hit them. Now, since I said that, I'll probably hit one for you so you can see me hit one. But yes, I do. I put them in, as you can see, I put them in horizontally like this, and so I can drive over them. I don't use those big, heavy, yellow plastic-headed pins that they call quilting pins. Those are just too thick, and you will hit those every time. And then, yes, the timing of your machine will be off. But these are so thin that they just bend. Now, I do go through a lot of pins. I throw away a lot of pins. So I buy a lot of pins on sale at Joann's. They have these little blue-headed, extra fine glass head pins is what I use, and these are Dritz, I think. My favorite ones are the clover pins. They are red and white, and they are really tiny little thin ones too. So, okay, so here's our row. I'm going to flip this up, and then I'll go press it. So here's our first 2 rows sewn together. And the seams turned out beautifully and aligned because I didn't take the pins out. I kept them there. Yay! It's always a big thing if I get the seams lined up, so I'm always excited. Oh, hi, Megan. And Terry's here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and press this. I think I put in the instruction. Let me just see what I read here. What I wrote, pressing the seams all in one direction. I did actually press all the seams for the rows in the same direction. So let me go look what direction I pressed them in for the other half. I think I pressed them down, so that's the direction we'll go. It doesn't really matter which way you do them. In fact, I'm going to be a rebel and I'm going to press them up. It doesn't really matter with the rows. Sometimes it does matter when you if you have a quilt that you're trying to match up, like to put borders on and stuff, but it doesn't matter on this one. Okay, so I got that pressed down nicely. So here's the top couple rows of our quilt. Wasn't sure what this was going to look like with that white, but I think I'm going to like it. Oh, hi, Connie. And oh, they've got a bunch of people in here that have come in lately. Okay, and then again, I've got these little dog ears over here, so let's go snip these and get them out of our way. Turn it over here, and there's another one down here. Okay, has anybody got any questions? Is this all making sense to everybody? Hi, Connie. Okay. So I did the other 3 rows. So let's look at the quilt here quickly. This is the other 3 rows. So this is the top 2. And then the next row will be this row. Okay, so this one is the row in the middle. So it's a little different. It's got the small, remember we had 4 small triangles. So this one has a small triangle on the left-hand side, and then it's got 5 blocks. So I've got an A block, a B block, an A block, a B block, and then another A. And then it's got another small triangle on the corner. So this is like the corner of the quilt, okay? That was the 3rd row. The 4th row here has one of the larger blocks on the corner. But if you notice, we're going down the other direction. So the straight of the triangle is even with the top of the block, and they're oriented differently because we're starting down to the other corner. So they're oriented differently here. So here's this one. This is an A, a B, and an A. And then we've got another triangle over here. So again, the tops are even instead of the bottoms. The other side, it was the bottom. Okay? And then this one, the bottom row, just has the triangle. Again, the triangle and the block are lined up on the top. And then the little triangle at the bottom. Okay, so that's the other corner. So let's go ahead and put this together. I did some pre-sewing so you wouldn't have to sit and watch me sew all these blocks together. I think you can probably do the blocks. So, all right, so let's do this row. I'm going to do the same thing. Got to get it all lined up here though first. I'm going to line up my corners and nest my little seams together, and again I'm going to put a pin on each side. I've tried doing these like Jenny Doan from Missouri Star does these by just holding them, and I've yet never gotten one to line up if I don't pin it. So I'm going to pin that. And this one, let's go do this one over here. I got them nice and you can feel them when they slip in. They just slip right into those little curves, and you can just feel them. And I take my time when I nest them because I want them to turn out really beautiful. So just take your time. There's one more to do. The neighbors were out with their children. I don't know if you could hear them, but they have a little dog, and the little dog likes to bark at the kids. So the little dog's been barking. Okay, so then here's our triangle too, and I like to pin at the end of my triangle just so it doesn't scooch on me. So we'll put a little pin here. Go down to the other end, and try not to stretch your triangles so they stretch out of shape. Ouch! I just poked myself. These pins are really sharp too, these little pins. The other thing Grandma taught me was about your thread. So I don't know, some of you may not know, but you know, it's best to put your thread under your foot when you start, and that's why I drop my needle, because if I have my thread under my foot and I drop my needle, it hardly ever unthreads. All right, so we're going to start up here on the corner. Get our 1/4 inch seam going here. Everything lined up. Drop the needle. Second, I gotta close the drawer. That's where my pins are, so I just leave them in the top of the drawer here. Okay, so we're gonna do our 1/4 inch seam. And like I said, you can drive over your pins very slowly, but I would tell you to buy these little tiny thin pins. I'm pretty careful with them. But it does really help me keep my seams and my nested seams together so that they look beautiful. Okay, we're just about there. This was a long seam. This was kind of the center of the quilt. I usually sew a little faster than this, but the camera bounces really bad if I sew too fast. So we won't sew too fast tonight. Okay, so here's all of my, take the pins out. Then we'll flip this up and see how we did. See if it's beautiful. All right, it looked good. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a press as well, and then we'll be ready for the borders. And I cheated a little bit and I did not press all the same direction. Whichever way you do it is fine. I know that I've done it both ways, so whichever works for you when you're pressing. All right, oops, I think this one I must have done something here. I have a tendency to catch my seam allowances on the back, on the edges, so I have to always kind of repress them so they lay nice and flat. I'll press them good before I do the quilting next week. All right. But you want them pressed nicely before we put the border on, so we know we're going to get the border on correctly. Actually, this doesn't look too bad. It has a different look than my other one because it has a light colored outside. So I'll hold it up here so you can see it. Okay. So let me pull the camera up so you can see this. So here's so we're putting it together from the top, see? And this looks much different than my other one did because it has a very different border on it. I actually kind of like it. It's the same colors as that was in my quilt, so I kind of like it. And I'm going to put purple. So what do you think? Purple or gold borders, guys? I think I was going to choose purple, but what do you think? I'm going to get my little dog ear up here. What do you think? I got both colors. What do you think I should put on it? Yep, here we go. Here's the little dog ear. We'll get this trimmed up. What do you think? Gold or purple borders? Okay. No one's saying anything. Purple, yeah. I kind of like the purple. Oh, there's Bonnie. Hi, Bonnie. Did you find me? Yeah, I think I'd like the purple. Do you think this will look good? Let's lay this out here so you can see it. Put the camera back down again so you can see. So here's the purple. What do you think? Should we put the purple on there? I think I like the purple. I'm going to put the gold on for the binding then. Oh, I got some other questions. Whoops, I got to get the comments. There we go. Purple, purple. I think everybody has decided we need to put purple. Okay, we'll put purple on. Okay, now there's a lot of schools of thought about putting on borders. And it says measure and cut 2 borders the width of the quilt. I have a tendency to be kind of lax about my borders. If you're careful when you're piecing your quilt, I actually do pretty well with my borders, and so I just kind of stick my borders on. So technically what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to measure the center of the quilt. That's the size that you should cut your borders. But I kind of don't do that. I mean, most of the time I'm fine. Mine are usually pretty close. And if you're careful when you're sewing it together, it will be fine. So I am going to press this one side a little bit because I notice it's a little rippled. So give me a second here and I'll press it one more time. But my quilts turn out pretty flat even though I do borders this way. And this is a very small quilt, so I think we'll be fine doing it this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my borders on. Instead of doing all the measuring, I'll just put the borders on it. But the one side needed to be ironed a little bit more. Okay, so I had you cut 2 pieces that were the width of the fabric, and I'm going to just start this. I like to put the side borders on first. I don't know about you guys. That's where I've always liked to put the side borders on first. And so I'm going to put a border on this side and then a border on the other side. And I'm just going to line up my border. And I did pull it up just above the, oops, second here, just above the selvage. I was lazy and didn't cut the selvages off. But I like to put my borders on top. That's always been the way I put these on. I do better if the border is on the top. And on my borders, I do like to do a lock stitch just because I feel like then I'm not going to lose my border. Okay, so I'm going to line my border up. I'm not going to pin. I'm just going to sew it on. I've got my 1/4 inch. Oops, second here, I got my thread stuck. There we go. This is such a small wall hanging. I think everybody will be safe just doing their borders. Not quite there yet. Oops, a second, let me get the other one out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a lock stitch at the other end of my border here. And cut it off. Now I'm going to press this quickly, and if you give me a second, I'm actually going to go over to the cutting table and I'm going to cut the other end off because I want it to be even with the edge of my quilt. So I'm going to press this, and I like to press the borders outwards, the seams outwards, because they seem to work better that way. I'm pressing the seam toward the border, I should say. But But then I'm going to take this over to my cutting table quickly, and I'm going to trim that off so it's even with my block on each side. I didn't have room for my cutting mat too, so I'm going to have to run to the table here. Give me just a second here. And what I do is I use that seam. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. I use the seam that I sewed sewed the border on. I use that seam to help me get my borders nice and straight on the ends. Okay, so here's my first border. I've got it nice and straight here. I use this line right here where the seam is to help me get them straight. So that's what I use to help me keep things straight. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and put the border on the other side. And I need to look at my borders quick here to see which one we have to do. Just a second here. So this one is going to be long enough. So what I think this is the way I did it. This is the one width of the fabric that I used. I made one side border and one end border, top and bottom border out of one. So I'm going to put this one aside, and I'm going to go to the other strip and put the other side border on, so I have plenty of fabric. I don't think I would have a problem if I did it the other way, but I just want to make sure that I have plenty of fabric, because I think this only ends up about 20 inches total. So your width of fabric is 45. All right, so we're going to go up here and get this lined up. Okay. I've got the selvage above. I have one of I noticed one of my triangles was a little off. I'm terrible at cutting triangles, so one of my triangles is a little off here. I'm going to put the locking stitch in. Looks like I have a comment. Oh, hi, Robin. Okay, we're going to go ahead. I've got my 1/4 inch. Let's go down here. Second here. And the trick is, too, with your borders, don't pull on them. I just lay mine on, and I always put the border on the top and put the quilt towards the feed dogs. And I don't pull anything. I just lay it on so it's nice and even. Keep running into my quilt up there. There we go. I can hear the neighbors out again, the little dogs barking at the kids again. I get a kick out of their little dog. I had a Pekingese. I had 2 Pekingese as a kid, Pekingese dogs, and they have a little Pekingese, and he looks just like the one that I had. And the first thing they asked me was your little Pekingese stubborn too? And I said, oh my, they must be a stubborn breed, because our little dog was the most stubborn little thing. And I guess he is too. So, okay, so here's my second border. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press it towards the border, and then I will go trim it. I really love this. I have one of those wool ironing mats. Man, that thing is so nice. I love it because I can move it around when I need it. Okay, we're just about done. I'll go trim those ends off. So I'm just going to trim the ends so that they're flush. And I'm going to use the seam to help me do that. So it's nice and straight. Well, that triangle was crooked. I didn't realize how crooked my triangle was. Hopefully my quilt will turn out here. I had one quilt or one triangle that was really crooked, evidently. Sometimes it happens. I'm not very good at triangles. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so here's our two side borders. We got the border over here, and then I used my seam to help me line up the tops and bottoms of my borders. Okay. Oh, hi, Linda. All right, so what do you think? So now we're ready for the other two borders. I'm going to turn it this way. Actually, I think it looks pretty good. You like the purple? I think the gold binding will look pretty on it. Wasn't sure if I'd like the white triangles, but they look pretty good. Okay, so this one then is going to go all the way across. It looks like we're pretty good. Looks like it's going to be pretty straight. One of my borders is kind of, it was folded up for a week, so let me give it a press on the end here. It's got a big fold in it. All right, so I'm gonna run this off the end just a little bit. Okay, get it lined up. So of course this border is going to go past all the way out past the other one there. Okay, so our 1/4 inch seam. I'm definitely going to tie this one off. I try to tie it off right where the two are going to meet so that I don't have my borders coming off on me, especially when I start kind of playing around when I go to quilt it. So I like to make sure they're locked on there. And I like to use the locking stitch. Let me push the camera up for a second. I like to use the locking stitch instead of the backup stitch. I like to just lock a knot so it doesn't back up. Okay. Denise, the purple really pops, doesn't it though? I think it's pretty. I think I like the gold for the binding. That's what I kind of thought, but I thought I'd ask you guys while I was doing this. So, all right, so here we go. We're going to go down the end here. You get to see how crooked I sew. Okay, got the border on the top and the quilt on the bottom. Okay. And then when we go to quilt this next week, I'll show you. I don't do a lot of quilting like this myself, but this little quilt is really fun to quilt. It's just I just did some stitching in the ditch and it's some simple quilting, and I used some decorative stitches out of the machine to quilt it. So I'm going to watch where the end of my border is so I can tie that off at the very end. I want to make sure that I have a good tie at the end. Like that. Okay, and I'm going to cut it up. All right, so let's go ahead and do the other side before we flip them out. I think it's gonna, looks like I did pretty well. I didn't even cut my corners off. I'm pretty proud of myself. I did have one that was a little bit crooked, so I do have one corner that's a little chopped off, but I have a friend that always said, it's just a quilt. They all have mistakes in them. There's no perfect quilt. I do pretty well with corners. I have a little trouble sometimes when I do these kind of triangles. I'll sometimes catch my corner. So, all right. So we're going to push this one on there. Line up the ends. Oops. Need to pull my thread down. I'm going to unthread my machine. There it goes. I've noticed as I've started using cotton thread that the cotton thread is a little curly, so I have to be careful that I have it well under the foot, because if I don't, it curls and unthreads itself. All right. Okay. Off to this one. I'm going to go down the side. Sure my borders are even. You don't want to stretch underneath. Let's see here. I've got a fan above my head. It's not too bad in here tonight. It actually has gone down a little bit. It's only about 75 out here now. When I got home, it was about 80 degrees out here. I thought, oh golly, I'm not going to be able to do this. It gets really warm in my sewing room. It's on the southwest corner of the house, and it gets warm out here because of the sun coming in the evening. All right, let's see how I did here. Looks pretty good. Oh, these corners look better. I had one, I think. Let me go press it, and let's see how I did on my little tips. Make sure I didn't clip them off. Get them pressed here. Again, I'm still pressing to the border side. And there are some quilt patterns, there's a couple quilt patterns that I've done that they do tell you to press to the inside. So I think sometimes you just need to look at your pattern because some of them tell you to do that. I think it also depends on how dark your borders are. Having trouble with this one. Keeps curling on me. There we go. I'm going to go trim off the little ends real quick so you can see what it looks like. And I also use, when I'm doing the borders, I also use the seams to help me keep everything straight. So when I put these on, I also use the seam to keep it straight. I do the same thing when I'm trimming borders when I long arm, because you use the seams to help you keep it straight when you're trimming your borders off. So these seams unfinished right now are 2 1/4 inches. Not too bad. Okay, so here's our little pineapple C's with all the borders on it. I'm going to pull this back so you can see it a little bit better. So what do you think? You like the purple? Actually, I think I'm going to like that. I may have to hang this in my bedroom to go with the quilt. Kind of like it. All right. So we got the borders on. We got the, looks like I did pretty well with my corners. I didn't cut them off. I have one that's a little close. I may have to look at that. I had a little trouble with this one border up here. One of my triangles was a little off, so I may take that one border off and just redo it. I'm a little bit close on my top borders up here. So what do you think? You like that? So there's the top. So for next week, hopefully you can get your top put together. And yeah, it is kind of pretty. I wasn't sure what I'd like, if I'd like the white around it, because I just didn't have any more of the other color, but it looks pretty good. Because this is the colors I used in my quilt, and I had another UNI print. There's only one place you can get a UNI actual print. It's at the store up in Esterville, and they have a actual UNI print that has the Panther logo on it, and so that was also in there. But it was too big of a print for this little tiny wall hanging, so I didn't put it in here. But this was the rest of the fabrics I used in it. So. But okay, so are there any questions? Does this make sense to everybody? Just a second, I got some comments, so I'll have to. Yeah, it is. I think it looks pretty good. Do you like it? So I'm so excited to see all of yours. And next time, what we'll do is, if you can have kind of ready, if you're going to be sewing along too. I want my fabric, my backing fabric, to be a little larger than the top fabric. So on this one, since we're quilting it on the machine, you won't need a lot of extra, So even if it's just maybe a couple of inches all the way around, it would be fine. When you long arm, you need more, but when we're doing it on the machine, it'll be fine. And then I want the batting to be the same width as the backing. And then I'm going to lay this on the top, and I like to pin baste mine. I'm not a spray baster, and you can use spray baste if you want, but I'm going to put pins in mine just to hold it together. And then what we'll do is we'll do some stitching in the ditch for this, because there's so much going on, and these blocks are so small, we don't really need to quilt in here. We could quilt, actually. The other thing we could do is like use, we could actually quilt each block with a design with the embroidery machine, because that would be really cool too. But there's so much going on and they're so small. I just did stitching in the ditch. I did a little bit of decorative. I'm just going to do just some simple stitching in here. And then I did a little decorative stitch out of the machine. Some of the decorative stitches in the machine are very large. So we're just going to do that along the edge. And then I also digitized just a little round design, whoops, to go into the corner in here. So that's probably, well, I'll probably do it like I did the other one. So anybody got any questions? Yeah, Lisa, Esterville. There's a quilt shop in Esterville that had UNI fabric commissioned, and they're the only place in town or any place in Iowa that we can get UNI fabric, because there's no other UNI fabric. Yeah, I really like the purple. So yeah, I wasn't expecting I wasn't sure what it was going to turn out like, because it was, you know, it was just scraps, but I kind of like it actually. And so I did buy some of that fabric. It was really cool, and I made a quilt out of it for myself. And then I quilted it with music notes because I was a music major at UNI. So there are two. I love it. Oh, I don't know which one it is though. But one of them commissioned it. They got the fabric printed, and they're the only place in Iowa you can get the UNI fabric. So can't remember the name of it. So, okay, so any other questions? So we've got the whole top put together. I do too, so that's exciting. I don't have to work too hard this week. And next week we'll do some simple quilting. And like I said, I'm not a very good machine quilter. I use my long arm, but I just did some simple quilting on this, and it turned out just really fine. This one, you can see on the back. I'll turn it over so you can see it. So you can just see I stitched in the ditch along here. And I did go along the borders too, right here. And then I did some simple little quilting in the triangles. And then this is a decorative stitch that's in the machine. And it looked like the ocean, so I thought, well, it was very good for the pineapple seas. So like I said, this one's going to be called Pineapple Panthers. So we'll do maybe some gold or white thread in the borders maybe. Because I think I want to see it. If I'm going to do it, I think I want to see it. And then I'll put those little circles in the corners. But that's what we'll do next time. We'll do a little bit of simple quilting. Start in the center and so on. Okay? So are there any questions? Did this all make sense to you so you can get your little quilts put together? Some of your blocks were beautiful. I can't wait to see the quilts put together. Okay, so it's about 10 after 7. I was hoping we'd be done around 7. That's awesome. And so next week we will get together and do the quilting. Oh, I got all the little thumbs up coming up. Thanks, guys. I like those. We'll get together and do the quilting, and then the next 2 weeks will be off because the following week is Easter Sunday, so I'll take Easter Sunday off. And then the last week in April is the Anita Good Design event, and some of you are probably coming to that anyway. So we won't have Sew Along with Jan those 2 Sundays, but then we'll start the following Friday for those of you who are making the tuffets. The tuffet kits are ordered, and they will be coming this week, I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, Lisa has to finish her pillow, she says. Yep. So then we'll start making tuffets. And I've got some ideas for after the tuffet classes. I found a really cute freebie from Kimberbell I thought maybe we could do. And it's a cute little welcome pillow. So I thought that might be kind of fun. So, and that was a free design. So, okay, any other questions? All right, so I've got Pineapple Panthers is put together. I'm excited. I don't have to work too hard this week to get it together. So I got the whole thing done. All right. So I will see, let's see what's going on this week. So some of you I'll see in Davenport on Friday. Because it's the Serger class, so some of you will be coming to the Serger class, I think on Friday next week in this coming week in Davenport. And then thanks, Jan. Oh, hi, thanks, Sharon. And then the following week is, let's see, I don't think there's any classes then until the first week in May after that at the store. So, okay. All right. Well, I'll see some of you on Friday. And I'll see the rest of you online next Sunday. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Clara. Have a good evening. Good night. Bye. I'll put the camera up and I'll wave to everybody. Bye. You can't see me yet. There we go. Got it up there so you can see me. Good night, everybody.